Welcome to Hypnosis in Action. My name is Stephen Anderson. I am the Outback Hypnotist, and we are going Smartie trekking. I have with me a sensational lady today, and I know you're sensational because someone I trust greatly told me you are sensational. Jillian, would you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Thank you. Jillian Hamilton. I am the founder and inceptor of Managed Damage, which is a business that we created based upon a need in quite a niche market for employers, helping them understand damage costs in the business.
Okay. When you say damage cost, I'm just going to press that there, and that will focus in and might give us a little bit more light with that camera. Yep. When you say damage cost, can you explain to me what you mean?
So when people talk about safety and risk in a workplace,
most people glaze over.
They do glaze over very quickly, and people get a little annoyed about, maybe a safety guy or girl who was a bit of a policeman, and there were people being told what to do, being told how to do it, and then there's this annoyance normally about rules. Yes. But unfortunately, they are in place for a reason, because we don't want people to be hurt. What I've found is that people talk boldly about, we don't want to hurt Bill, we don't want to hurt Mary, but they didn't listen. And I found I was working for people who needed to be convinced a different way. And so I thought, how do people converse in business? How do people, what are their decision-making processes? And I said, it's all about money. So we actually dollarized risk.
Okay. You dollarized risk.
We dollarized risk. So we actually put a financial value on safety.
Okay, fair enough. I want to take you to task a little bit.
Yeah.
You firmly believe that all business is all about money?
I do. I even believe that charities are all about money, because the more that you make, the better it goes to. It's just where the money goes that's different for each business. Right. So we all need to some people make a choice about how much money they want to make, but there is also a choice, because there's certain costs to run, otherwise the business has to cease. So I've found that the key language in business, no matter what era, no matter what country, no matter what age people are, no matter what age the business is that it is revolved around value of cost of money.
Okay, I'm going to throw a thought out there that your minimum business that you would work for would be somewhere between the $5 and $10 million turnover.
Yes and no. So we work with businesses up to internationally listed, and we do work globally as well, but we also apply the same ethos in a small way to small business as well, so that they can understand the value of it in the upfront, so they ensure that they don't end up with very big blowouts and costs in their insurance.
So tell me about you.
So about me, so I am a country lady. Right. I'm from Somerton near Tamworth in New South Wales. I grew up on a farm. As soon as I could walk, I would drive the truck or the tractor or the header, and I would do many laps around the paddocks, slashing, and I would also, I started off, my first paid employment was with my parents. I used to do jobs around the house for chores, extra jobs, so my mum didn't have to pay a cleaner. And then I started as a Girl Friday at my mum's work when I was quite young at her accountant's firm, and I started ironing people's clothes for
you say
hours
quite young.
Every night.
How young? When did you start ironing?
I started ironing when I was about 12.
Okay.
And I started to make money from that, from my parents, for our family first, because my mum didn't have time or want to iron. And then I would also go cotton tubing next door for the local farmer, and I would do that as paid employment when I was 16. But I started knowing the value of effort in and effort out when I was really quite young, working for my parents. From as soon as I could contribute, I would do things.
Is that something that most farm girls, if I can use that term, or farm kids, learn?
I think farm kids learn that if you don't put that everything it's hard work on a farm, and everyone is part of the team, and It's also nice to spend time with your family. You know, my best relationship was with my father when I was helping him do things with the horses and helping him do things with the farm and actually contributing to the families, you know, for our livelihood.
So did you stay Tamworth area based right up until the end of school, or?
Yeah, so we, I was born in in Tamworth, and I stayed there until I was 18 when I finished school, and I applied for, in New South Wales you could apply for I think 11 different things, and in Queensland you could apply for 4 different things at university. So I had 15 different careers listed. I was going to be a doctor, I was going to be a lawyer, I was going to be a baker, a candlestick maker, a donkey farmer. You know, I had everything, every possible career you could imagine I had listed in my list of opportunities for university, and I worked very hard, and I used to blame my mother for making me study hard. And one day, a couple of years ago, she pulled me aside and it was roused of me. She said, "Jillian, I didn't push you to study. You were pushing yourself to study." So apparently it was my agenda from when I was, 13 or 14. I was going to be driving, pushing, achieving, and I didn't really like being second. I was very, very competitive. And so I was working very hard to get good scores at uni. So I came out with a half decent score, putting me in the top 3 or 4%. And I sort of could choose anything. And I wanted to do everything. I wanted to be I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be an economist. I wanted to do everything. And so I found a course called Natural Resource Economics, which included economics, geography, and legal studies, which were my favourite school topics.
Oh, real nerd, huh?
Yes, and I said before I finished high school, I said I'm going to go and work for the UN, Mum. This is what I'm going to do, and yeah, I'm really pleased to say that I'm getting really close to doing some things for them in a couple of weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So your business is going to be employed by the UN, by the United Nations?
About 2 levels down.
Right. Okay.
So I have just been engaged by a group called GIZ, who is a German agency who is currently being funded by the International Labour Organization, which is funded by the UN.
Right.
So I'll be in a couple days down, being funded currently by the UN in a couple of weeks in Pakistan.
Tell me about that. So does this mean you will find yourself in Pakistan?
I've been finding myself for quite a while. I found myself and exactly what I wanted to do in business. I think when I worked for an excellent project manager called Rick, and Rick was a really interesting man, a very, very clever man, and I still know him quite well. And I worked on his construction site as an admin officer. Really I was an admin assistant at the beginning, and then he said, "Oh, look, you seem to get along quite well with the guys and the girls on the site. Why don't you do the safety committee minute?" And I said, "Oh, that sounds like a nice idea. So I'll do that." And so I did the safety committee minutes, and then he said, "Well, you should do the safety course." And I said, "Okay, let's do the safety course." So I did the safety course, and then they needed an environmental field officer, and because I had done natural resource economics, he said, "Oh, well, you can be the environmental field officer. We don't need an engineer, and we'll call it safety and environment." So from the very beginning, I was doing safety and environment and quality all at once. So I worked on this remediation site where there was really bad chemicals, and it used to give everyone a headache, and the workers were worried about being able to have children. They were worried about I felt sick at times, and the neighbours were, horrified about the smell, and I wanted to help find out why this was happening, and also how to repair it, and for people to feel comfortable at work. So then I started my career in safety by absolute accident. And that was when I found out that was going to be my career, and then the speed of trajectory was quite good. So after that, the
speed and trajectory of your
career and
moving forwards and upwards and onwards.
Yeah, in the safety space. So I started, I did that job, and then the job went really badly. So there was, it was a lump sum contract, and the costs were blowing out of the water. Where it was supposed to be 2 meters worth of contaminated soil across the site, it ended up being 12 meters in places, and it was an abomination of a job for the company I was working. It was like the greatest history percentage loss in the whole of their life, and it was quite a long-standing company. And then you learn things in those hard jobs, and it was a really hard job. And so at the end of that job, or towards the end, I got asked to prepare all the legal statements and work with the legal team for months and months and months. And so I learned how to do a lot of legal work, which I do a lot in my business, and legal contractual arguments. So eventually I said, look, I like this legal stuff, but I really like the safety stuff. Can you put me back onto safety things? And so I did. They put me across to a different remediation job, but then I was one of my friends that was working on my job moved to a different company, and I started to do some building work with them. So I was able to go and learn how to do construction after doing civil works with an excellent, amazing construction manager who had built the Melbourne, casino and all these like pinnacle, amazing jobs. And I remember so wholeheartedly what he said to me: nobody could hold a candle to you. And I remember going, I'm really sorry, Forgan, but what the hell does that mean? I didn't know what it meant. And he, took me down and Googled and showed me what, couldn't hold a candle to you meant. And I was really honored, because I really loved knowing how things work. And I think I got that from my father, because he's a, hands-on and he's a farmer who can make anything and work and be innovative with making things work. So I wanted to know how things worked too, and I always asked the workers, how do you do this? Why do you do this? Is there a better way we could do this? And so I found that the best way to engage people was through the workers themselves, and having them show me what they were up to and why they were up to what they were up to. Then I got hunted by a really excellent guy, and I ended up in the Wild West, working in the mines. In
the Wild West of Australia?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So, I worked
what type of mine?
I was on all of them, mostly iron ore. So, there was every donger camper that I could be in the Wild West, I was in. I spent hours and hours on planes. I did almost sometimes 5 return flights a week back to Perth, because in WA, unless you're on site, they don't believe you. And I didn't want to ever be seen as the I wanted to be known as the Saint Bernard, not the pelican that flew across and shit on you as you went past, because that's what head office people were known as.
Saint Bernard to me.
Well, the Saint Bernard rocks up with Bundy underneath their neck, and they look after people. Saint Bernard finds people lost in the snow and looks after them. And I didn't want to be seen as the person sitting at the top of the shiny castle. I wanted to be seen as a person that could help the workers, but also the safety professionals that I was overseeing. I oversaw about 25 different safety guys and girls across WA, working on really big mine sites, on dam walls, on car dumpers, on seawalls, on all road works, rail works, and really far out places. And I wanted everyone to know that they could call me and ask me questions, and I did. I got called all the time, and even now I still get calls from some of the workers from 15 years ago.
Okay. So give me an idea as to what it's like in the amount of time that you spend, in the amount of work that you do, in how much it takes over your life to be in a position where you are, by the sounds of it, the safety coordinator for pretty much Western Australia for one of the really large mining companies.
Oh, look, it's encompassing. And you had to be on call 24/7, 365. And I remember running on oxygen, and running on the sniff of an oily rag, and running on the fact that they had $2 Coronas that occasionally I'd have one of up at, Karratha or Port Hedland. But I ran on the fact that I knew that I was making a difference, and I knew that people trusted me, and I knew that the hard work I was putting in then would set me up for the next couple of jobs that I had coming through, and it really was an excellent experience to be able to do that. And it did set me up for a project, and I got employed as the national safety manager for QR Rail. So then I was able to come back to Brisbane, which I found became my base. I really enjoyed living in Brisbane, and I was going out more in Brisbane than I was in Perth when I was living in Perth.
When you say going out, because when you were talking about Perth, you're talking about flying backwards and forwards to site. Are you meaning the same thing there?
No, so when I was going back and forth to Brisbane, I was going back and forth to people's birthday parties and to...
so you got a social life when you got back to Brisbane?
Yeah, so that I would fly to Brisbane for social activities.
Right.
Because I didn't have social interactions or, friend interactions with people at work, because when you're a boss, you really do need to have that separation. Yeah. Of course, they're wonderful people and I made great friends, but it's a different kind of friendship that you have with people that occasionally you may need to reprimand and or be a boss for. And it's very hard to have those conversations if you are not in the right position for, separation.
Yeah.
So, I would come back to Brisbane, and eventually, after a good few years of learning the ropes and sitting at the very front row of in and out of Perth.
Just sitting on the side of the road.
Someone's had a good night there.
You come up here. They carried it with them because they were at a birthday party last night.
And then they came and sit out to look at the bush out here. Bless.
Bless them. Okay, so where do you find your friends?
So I find my friends, I used to find my friends at the pub.
Okay.
Yeah, 24/7, 365 when I wasn't at work.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest outlet was going to the pub and was hanging out with my friends and drinking, quite heavily.
Which is pretty standard in a mining position, isn't it? And in a high corporate position.
But I didn't really have much time to do it.
Right.
I in the very beginning of my job, I didn't really have much time off at all. So my greatest actual outlet was my next door neighbour, Annie, who would when I was not at home, she would water my plants. And then
Good on you, Annie.
Oh, she is so lovely, and they're coming to visit in a couple of weeks, so I can't wait. She was an amazing friend, and she used to look after me. She used to sit on my balcony when I was away, so people didn't think that my house was empty, so people would rob us. She was the best. We used to share a driveway, and the greatest neighbours of all time, her and Rohan, her husband. So we, she was my very best relationship, which was my next door neighbour and who became my very best friend, and she would come pop over with a glass of Sauvignon Blanc and a heap of ice that I learnt in WA.
You need ice with your Sauv Blanc.
It is just too hot.
Right, okay.
And then, we would sit on the balcony and ponder the day and the week and what was the next adventure.
So you're always looking forward to your next adventure?
Yes, absolutely. So I kind of plan my next adventures about 15 years in advance.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's big time.
Yeah, I think it was actually when I was in Perth, if not a little bit before, I wrote a list of 50 things I wanted to do before I was 50. And I already had it in my head, but I wrote it down. Mm-hmm. And I wrote it down in about 3 minutes because I knew exactly already what I had planned.
Okay.
And it's my absolute joy when I cross off anything. And one of them was to work internationally, professionally, and I was able to cross that off last year. The other one was which I think you'll think is very funny, was I had to find a husband before I turned 50, so that was one of them. But the other one was, if I didn't find a husband, I had to buy cats. 2 cats.
2 cats.
Yeah, because I really don't like cats, so I needed a proper incentive not to get married before I was 50.
That's perfect.
So I was able to cross off 2 when I got married, so that was a bit cheeky, but it was also very handy.
So you could cross off the cats because you got married, because you didn't have to get the cats.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I was also able to cross off going to see the Northern Lights, which we did on our honeymoon.
Oh, fabulous.
In Finland. And
my daughter was there a month ago.
Oh, it's just so very amazing. And I was able to cross off a couple of mountains already. So I was able to go and attempt Mount Aconcagua, but I haven't yet had it added as a successful summit because we had, I think it was 150 kilometre winds, which are impossible to stand up in.
Right.
But I was able to cross off Tanzania by doing the mountain over there, Kilimanjaro, and I was able to cross off starting my own business. And
so that's interesting, because you've talked an awful lot about how you worked so hard at being great at university, and you worked so hard, and my opinion of university is it's a great big training pot for employees.
yes,
And they train you to be a great employee.
Yeah.
They don't really train you to be an employer.
they don't, no.
So everything in this story up to this point has been about you being a great employee, even though you were a manager.
Yeah.
What makes someone who's doing? I have no idea, but I'm guessing you were on a pretty good salary. What makes someone wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to throw away that pretty good salary and open a business of my own, considering only 95% of them fail in the first 5 years?
So, for the record, which will determine the absolute insanity that I am, I was earning 6 figures where the number didn't start with 1, and it was just before 3, and I had actually negotiated 12 weeks paid annual leave in my last job. I didn't want any more money, I wanted more holidays, and the reason was it was just a burn.
Can I actually, I want to point something out, and I've been told I shouldn't talk about it, but at the moment I'm a teacher.
Yes.
And I'm doing that because I actually love it. I really enjoy whatever it is teachers do, and I'm still not 100% sure exactly what that is. But what you've just said with money, and you've very delicately worked around to saying how much money you earn.
Yeah.
And I think that's terrifying, because particularly the young ladies that are growing up today don't talk about their money.
Yeah.
And so me as a teacher right now, the kids that I'm working with, if they ask any questions about money, they get it on the nose.
Yeah.
Down to how much money I've got in my bank account, down to how much money I've got in stocks, so that they know that it's not a dirty word.
Absolutely.
Tell me your thoughts there, because you really did. And I would be proud to say I made $290,000 a year. I'd be really excited to say that. But it's something you couldn't say. And you are a tough woman.
The reason I say it like that is because some people find the price of salary a little offensive.
Right.
I will say that I don't believe in the glass ceiling because I smashed it out. And I think that I was very happy that I was earning $245,000 a year,
right.
Plus super, plus a phone, plus everything that I needed. And 12 weeks paid leave a year because I earned it. And the reason I earned it was I was able to show the value in the processes I was putting into the business I was working in. So I was able to save my business that I was working in more than $15 million in insurance premiums, dollar for dollar, apple for apple from previous times if they didn't do what I was doing. So I made myself financially I made financial bonuses upon the performance that I created for that business.
That's definite financial business, but financial benefit to the business having you there.
It was. I was actually returning by the end of my period as much as they were making in their first years of profit. Overall, I saved them more than they made sometimes in the bottom line over that 5-year period.
I don't believe in the glass ceiling because I smashed it out. You did.
I did, and I will continue to do it because I don't believe in it.
Is there something different about you to the others? Because I don't know what I was listening to yesterday, but there are 7 CEOs of big companies in this country that are women. And that's, I think it might be the ASX 200.
Yeah.
There are 7 of them.
Yeah.
That's like 3.5%.
Yeah, because they are the 3.5%ers. I'm a 3.5%er. I'm in the top 3.5%.
No.
It doesn't matter the value. It doesn't matter. If you are the very best performer in the room, you can demand your position.
Okay, I agree with that 100%. But for some reason, females aren't seen as the best person in the room, and I don't think it's not necessarily because they aren't the best person in the room.
I agree.
Okay. So the ceiling's there. You've just do you do it differently to most women?
I do. I just don't agree with it. So I call it out.
Okay.
I call it out every day that I need to, and the thing that I've found is that I don't really need to.
Okay. When you say I don't really need to, so that's made this question a bit defunct, but I ask it anyway. When you say I call it out, what do you mean?
I ask what people are being paid. I find out what the value is, and I deliver the value. So I go back to our business model, which is around money isn't a dirty word, and the value of everything is important because it shows the need for action. And I look at the costs, and I look at the value, and I look at the return of investment. So when I was able to always prove my return of investment, then I was able to prove my seat at the table. And I believe that there is many people in this world that can also do the same thing, whether they're man, woman, black, yellow, or purple. I believe that it's possible, and it's just about, I believe, self-worth, self-preservation, and standing up for what's right, and actually having resilience to call it out and ensure that you demand your seat. That, we've got the lady that recently decided not to work at a particular station because of the value, and she's getting the value in a different place.
What's next?
What's next? Well, Managed Damage / Jillian Hamilton is releasing a book to go with our risk dollarization, so that people understand what is risk dollarization and can look at it in the middle of the night if they want to, or 6 a.m. or 10 a.m. or whenever they like. That's their choice. Instead of having to see us or meet us at a conference or pay to see us, they can buy the book. We're also.
What will they get from buying that book?
They'll get a real insight into risk dollarization and a financial approach.
You're gonna have to define exactly what risk
dollarization.
Risk dollarization.
Dollarization.
Risk dollarization.
Yeah.
See, can I offer a suggestion there? Say that slower. No, really.
I will.
Because they are seriously important words.
Yeah.
Risk dollarization. They're important words.
They are.
And I had to ask you 3 times to work out what you were saying. Sorry, I'm picking on you now.
That's okay, you can pick on me if you want to. Is that because you found out what my salary was and then I negotiated the 12 weeks?
No.
I'm only winding. No, you can pick on me all you want because the words are very important. Risk dollarization is applying a financial approach to risk and costing the usual things that are not deemed as financial in a workplace. So health, safety, environment, and quality.
Yep.
So the soft skills, inverted commas, that are not normally included in the budget. So we will teach people how to understand what is risk dollarization, and how they can put that into their business model so they can see where the costs are at their business, and maybe just have a little look into how to do that themselves. And we are also releasing a safety financial reporting tool later this year.
Okay. What's next for Jillian?
What is next for Jillian Hamilton? What's next is we have another business set up called Ignite Fire,
Okay.
which is a corporate business.
So this is all business. You're all business.
No. The business behind it is a corporate social responsibility business. So which is the plan for work and travel. That is a lifestyle of work and travel where we make a difference in people's lives, and it ensures that we also have a life where we travel and make differences in people's lives.
Further into that.
So a long time ago, when Rana, Bangladesh actually happened, I applied to do a TED Talk and got accepted, but didn't actually go forward on it. But it was the Rana, Bangladesh crash, which related to the safety of workers in third world countries. It really ignited a fire in me because I was quite concerned that the value of somebody's life, for a loss of a life, was only $200 for a Bangladeshi person's, the maker of people's lives, the father or the mother that was the only person who was making money in a family's life for their whole existence. When that person died, they got paid $200. And that saddened me because that factory was making clothes where the t-shirt cost $200.
Yeah.
And I thought that people's lives were worth much more than the value of a t-shirt. And I wanted to, at that time, I wanted to be able to create sustainable ways for third world countries to be able to look after and be their own masters of their own safety, and for them to actually be self-sustainable, not needing me or anybody else or any other system, but for them to be able to have self-determination around having a safe place to work, because it was the first world, us white Anglo-Saxon people who were buying these expensive clothes, and when they all died, that each of them only got $200, and only if they could find some paperwork to prove that they were who they were and that they were at that workplace on that day. Even if they were at that place, unless they had paperwork, they wouldn't give them $1. And I found that really disheartening, and I wanted to be able to create a platform where things like that could be addressed. So that was the first project where I wanted to be involved. And I had a fire inside of me. I wanted to go and help those guys and girls, and I thought that would be a great way to start a corporate social responsibility company, because I believe that corporate social responsibility is not well harnessed right now. It's not valued, as in it's not seen as a very good marketing tool, and I believe that our generation, why do we bother, bless them, only buy corporate social responsible things, and I believe that they will do more of that as we go on.
Yep.
And I believe that if you can harness that and create a way that people only buy from sustainable companies, that you will increase the value of life globally, you will increase the way people feel about themselves who aren't there. So it feels good when you give back. It feels good to be involved in the give back. So we also talked about making CSR friends, so you could actually go on a holiday and be involved in projects that people would approach us to do. So we would set up a whole myriad of projects. So whenever you buy something in a shop here in Australia, that company must give a donation to the CSR fund, and then you can also choose to add another 5 cents or another $10 if you wanted to, and it would then link to Facebook and flag up and tell everyone that you just supported a particular thing. And there was 10 different things you could choose from each day.
Yeah.
And I really believe that will be able to create a whole set of projects, of ways to give back, and in all different ways that people can choose to support.
Cool. So how is that going? How is that travelling?
it's not yet commenced.
Right.
So we have just we have the strategy, we have the process in the background ready to go, but it will be flagged off as soon as a couple of the managed damage tools are available for purchase.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't do everything all at once. You have to have your plan in the future go forward.
Yeah. For some reason that one stopped on us, but that's fine. We'll fix that in the afterwards. Okay, so it's sounding like an exciting time.
Yeah.
Okay. You're fun to talk to. You are really the time has come where it's my job to sit back and sort of investigate your mind and see what I can find in there and what you're doing inside your mind to hypnotize yourself every day.
Yeah.
Because I find, or I believe, that the majority of people are hypnotizing themselves to believe that they aren't good enough. And that the words that are being said in their mind and the actions that they're taking are based on a false belief that basically is fear. Okay? And what I'm seeing from you is very little fear. The love, the passion for learning. Okay, you seem to be a lifelong learner, and you seem to love it so much, and you actually seem to be really, really good at it. So that's number one, is you actually enjoy learning more, knowing more, being more. Okay?
Yeah.
And I think that's important. Okay. Service, you seem to be there to serve, to help people, to do what you do, mainly not for yourself, not for, well, straight away leaving a very well paid job to open a business to serve people is exciting. What do you think? What do you think is inside you that's just a little bit different to most of the people? Well, you probably run with a lot of people very much like you. Okay, but say your employees from where you were before, or your employees today. What's different?
I think I have a never say die attitude. So if something doesn't work, I'm just going to keep trying to make it work. And I have a sincere, I do have a fear. I don't like to say I'm going to do something and not achieve it. I don't want to ever be seen as a gunner, as in I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, because I find that really low in my level of admiration. I just don't see that as an acceptable form. Mediocrity petrifies me. Boring is a word that makes me want to vomit. I like living, and I believe that there's so much things to see and there's so many things to do that I know that if I died today in your tiny little smart car, that I wouldn't mind. Because I've tried to do everything I possibly could.
Smart cars are protective. They do. They give themselves up for the people inside them. I've seen pictures on the internet.
But I'm not saying it's your car. I'm saying any car. I think about this regularly. Like, I actually know that I once got quite sick, and I wanted to make sure that, I know that when you get to the bottom of a very dark hole, that once you climb out of it, standing on the top is quite possibly the greatest place to be, and you knew about getting out. And I suppose that it is about understanding that every day is for living, and I don't want to have any regrets about not trying something, not going to see something, not going to do something. Because I know a lot of people that live their lives that way, and I try and encourage them to not be that way, to go and see what they want to see, go and do what they want to do, and make sure they say what they need to say.
Okay. So cool. So, looking down, I'm looking down at the clock. A couple of reasons, because normally about 15 minutes ago in our conversation, I do the have a look into your mind thing, and then make an offer. Yeah. That if there's something you want to change hypnotically, we can have a go at that. And sometimes people say yes, and sometimes people say no, and the reason I look down is we've now got 15 minutes left because I'm doing the granddad thing once we've finished up here, and I'm going to see Peter Rabbit with my grandkids.
Oh, how good.
Is there anything you'd like to change?
Is there anything I'd like to change? Ooh, the amount of money in my bank account at the moment.
Yeah, hypnosis can probably do that, but not directly.
No, I know I also know that that's not a problem. It's just a timing thing. What would I change?
That's not a problem. It's just a timing thing. That is hypnosis. Okay, the belief that that's not it is. Believe me.
Yeah.
You've convinced yourself. Totally convinced yourself.
I do believe in myself because and if there's one moment where I don't believe, I ring someone who I know doesn't believe me, and I ring them and I talk it through, and I convince them first, and they go, no, I'm already convinced, but I talk them through to, I talk my question through to them and say, okay, is this a crazy idea? And I know it's crazy, but I'm okay with it because I talk it through and I justify it to them in my time whilst justifying it to me, and then I just do it.
Yeah, and then I just do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. What else?
What else would I change? I probably wouldn't change too much. I suppose the one thing that I would change is that when I put all my effort into things, so at the moment my number one effort is to get managed damage, doing what it's supposed to, making a difference, and also helping people understand the value of risk. You know, it's set for sale, so it is a business that is, you know, I already know what day it's going to sell.
Okay.
It's to be advised, no one else you can know, it's a secret.
Yep.
You know, I know what day it's going to sell, I know what day Ignite Fire will start, and I know what those things will do. When you focus on those things, you can't do everything in your life at once. So I think that my second book will be, or my third book will be, I lost 100 kilos, not 50 kilos. So I already lost 50 kilos, and I've put on about nearly that again.
Right.
Because I've been so focused on work, because there is not a million hours in every week, and you do have to make a choice about what you can do. And I say to people that being fit, it's not about being skinny. Being fit doesn't pay my bills. But I do know that there is a time for me to recommence my intense training to go back. So then I'll be able to write my book that said I lost 100 kilos to 50 because I actually decided that I wanted to climb Mount Everest.
Right.
And the reason I wanted to climb Mount Everest is because I needed a good reason to lose some weight.
Right.
Because I've traveled so many places in this world, but I ran out of cushy places to go. And you know, when you're a plus size lady, you can't be racing up a hill, and so I was like, I really want to go and do that fun adventure stuff, but I'm just not fit enough. So I said I'll set a goal so that I get fit. And so I set a goal, and you know, as most people do, they set, you know, a goal that's kind of a bit reachy, and I said I'll climb.
Most people don't.
They do. They set goals so that they should. A bit reachy anyway. So I said I'd climb Everest, and I didn't mean base camp. I meant to the top.
Yeah.
And then I thought, no, one mountain is not enough, because once I do that mountain, I'll be lazy again, and so I would choose to do 7 summits, which meant that
one in each
I'd
continent.
have to do one in each continent, and then I would have at least a long period where I couldn't be lazy, because I'd have to go back and do those other mountains as well, because again, I repeat, nobody likes a gunner, and I really don't like myself to be seen as one. So there is a mountain up there that I need to go and see in a couple of, you know, in a year or two, and when I go back to see the top of Mr. Everest, I will be able to then say I've done that.
Camera and say, if you want to see this complete show,
If you want to
see this complete show,
see this complete show,
you can find that
You can find that
at outbackhypnosis.com.
at outbackhypnosis.com.
And my YouTube channel too.
And my YouTube channel as well. And my YouTube channel.
My YouTube channel.
And my YouTube channel.
Thank you. Thank you
very
so much. It's been, yes. I love the people that climb in the Smartie with me because they just have such great stories and they have such an incredible vibe about who they are.